Are you thinking of using Kickstarter to raise funding for your startup company, or maybe using crowdfunding to get funding and to accelerate the progress of your startup company? In today's video, I want to talk about some of the things you should be aware of going into the launch process, how really Kickstarter works when it comes to startups, and also some advice and tips for anyone out there who's gearing up to a launch when it comes to their crowdfunding campaign. If you don't already know, my name is Salvador Briggman, and on this channel, I love to cover and demystify what works when it comes to launching an effective crowdfunding campaign. In addition, with my podcast, Crowdfunding Demystified, we've interviewed over 500 case studies of successful individuals raising funding from the crowd. And I've also written the book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is the paint by number system to be able to launch a Kickstarter campaign and what you got to do from a very nitty gritty, every single step standpoint. So in this video, I first want to talk about really how Kickstarter works for those startup companies, some of the things you should be aware of when it comes to your specific category, and then we'll get into some advice and tips and some things that you should know before you get started. The first thing that you should know in going into an upcoming Kickstarter campaign for a startup company is the fact that this is all or nothing, baby. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that Kickstarter as a platform is an all or nothing crowdfunding platform. And all that means is that, for example, if you have a $25,000 goal, you must hit or exceed that amount of funding in order to keep the funds which have been raised. If you don't hit your goal, you can't keep the funds. So what would end up happening is that anyone who backed your campaign on Kickstarter, and it's called backing, and these people are called pledgers or backers, they would not have their credit card charged, and instead it would say the campaign has failed. But if you hit or exceed your goal, then you can keep all the funds which have been raised, and it gets deposited into your bank account as one lump sum. So this is one thing that every startup should be aware of, is that Kickstarter is an all or nothing platform. The next thing is actually one of the very common, I'd say, a little bit of a controversial point. A lot of people who book coaching calls me are like, I don't really understand this. And it's the fact that every single Kickstarter campaign has a fundraising duration. So all that means is that you're running this campaign for the period of maybe 30 days or 60 days, maximum of 60 days as we're talking on when it comes to Kickstarter. And every campaign has a funding duration, so there's only a set period of time where people can back your campaign and join your movement as a startup company. I'm sure you're going out there trying to impact the world, bring something new to the planet that's going to help people, either a new tool, an app, a gadget, or a gizmo. Those people only have 30 days or longer, depending on your funding duration, to actually take action. So what that funding duration does, and again, a lot of people come to me like, Sal, I don't understand. Why is it that we have this duration, we have to set this? Wouldn't it be great to have this open year long so we can just continue to raise funds? And while it might be great theoretically, right, to have a long campaign open, when it comes down to the brass tacks of it, and that's kind of what marketing is, the brass tacks of it, people will only take action when there's urgency behind a decision. So that set funding duration creates a maximum amount of urgency, and then people start to take action to grab those actual perks and rewards, which we'll talk about next, and they're more likely to follow through with that set funding time period. The next thing, and I led myself so nicely into this point, is this idea that there's not something for nothing when it comes to Kickstarter. So if I was coming in like, dude, I have this new startup and I'd love for you to support it and to donate to it. Do you mind supporting the mission? You look at me like I'm crazy. You're like, Sal, maybe I love the idea, or I love the hustle, the passion of the movement, my movement specifically, to demystify this subject for you, to impact people, help people reach their full potential worldwide. You'd be like, I love it, but I don't understand, right? And you might go out and do something else, go chill on the beach. If you're here in Miami, Florida, you might love to go and go to a nice restaurant and have a nice meal, have some ceviche, right? Or something like that. But you wouldn't go and you wouldn't back the Kickstarter campaign. So perks and rewards were developed as an incentive mechanism, so that when people come to the campaign, what they see are perks and rewards that are listed, and when they back the Kickstarter, whether they're a normal backer or a super backer, they can actually get access to these perks and rewards. So that could be, for example, the ability to pre-order your product or an early version of your product. You can become, if you're doing an app, become a beta tester, right, for your app. It could be maybe they get a discounted version on a lifetime membership to your app or a year-long annual membership to your app. There are many different perks and rewards which you can offer backers as a way to incentivize them, to get them more excited. about being a part of this mission and backing at those higher levels. For example, $100, $150, $200 levels, people are more likely to back with those large numbers when you have enticing and compelling rewards. So I hate this kind of like jargon, and it's actually one of the reasons why I got into the industry and why I wrote my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is the paint by numbers, step-by-step plan to launch a Kickstarter campaign, was to really remove all of the jargon and the fluff and to just have like one slender volume that's actionable, that's packed with nuggets of crowdfunding gold that you can take out there, you can execute upon, and you can get results. So I know we're throwing around a lot of big words and like vocabulary and stuff like that. So when it comes to perks and rewards, another way to think about this in more common terms would be like a pre-order campaign, where people are pre-ordering the product, the app, or whatever it is that you've developed, the service, for example. And the reason why is that, again, it's a pre-order, so those people are going to have those perks and rewards delivered to them. You call that reward fulfillment, right? That's going to happen over the course of 1 to maybe 4 months after the campaign has finished. So in comparison with other ways of raising funds or with other types of e-commerce, you're not just delivering it right then and there, right on demand. It's going to be something where people are backing that campaign and they're getting it later. So it's more of like a pre-order. The next thing you should be aware of, and you should have your eyes open when it comes to this, is fees. And that's because once you have run a successful Kickstarter campaign, you follow what I teach on my videos and also, of course, in my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, and you get those incredible results. What's going to happen is you're going to have those funds deposited into your bank account in a lump sum, but there are going to be some fees as well that come with that. That could be, for example, the Kickstarter platform fee, which at the time I'm recording this video is a 5% fee on the funds which have been raised. In addition, there is going to be credit card processing, which kind of varies, but works out to be about 3%, but it kind of, varies a little bit there. So you're gonna have credit card processing fees plus the fees on the Kickstarter platform, two things that you should be aware of and take into account when it comes to the budgeting behind the project. So at this point in time, we talked about how Kickstarter works in terms of the duration, in terms of the funding goal, and also how it works in terms of perks and rewards, why people support or back these campaigns, and also the process, right? Which is after you raise funds, how that's deposited into your bank account, and in addition, the fees that come with that. So you have a very high level view at the moment of how a campaign works, but there's a lot of nitty gritty as well. So what I want to talk about in my next section is kind of getting into what anyone should be aware of going into a Kickstarter campaign for a startup company specifically. We're going to get into that right now. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. So the biggest thing you should be aware of is really who Kickstarter is for and who it's not for. And when it comes to this, going out there and launching a campaign takes work, it takes effort. So you got to be aware of the fact that this is not for everyone. So the first one is that someone will come to me and maybe they'll book like an individual coaching call with me and they'll be like, Sal, so I want to do this campaign, right? But I just have an idea. I don't have sketches, I don't have a business plan, I don't have any information on this actual product, I haven't done anything to develop it, I'm not anywhere near the prototype stage yet. For someone who comes to me and is like that, the first thing I'll say to you is, first of all, congratulations. Because so many people in my community, their idea just is circling in their head and they don't actually take any kind of meaningful action to turning that into reality, right? At the same time, you need to take more steps to really get that idea into something that you can show other people. That could be a business plan, that could be a prototype, that could be going more in depth into the pros and the cons and the benefits and the functionality and the features and all that kind of stuff. You need to just move that idea a tiny bit more before you can actually get to the point where you can launch a Kickstarter campaign. So the first thing is that Kickstarter is not a great platform unless you already have a certain point in your idea where you can share it with other people. A project is designed to be shared with other people, and ideally you have a prototype as well when it comes to your app, your physical product, your design product, or you're getting near to that prototype stage. The next one is like, Sal, I love this idea of using crowdfunding, but I don't really have interesting rewards to give, or I don't really want to give any kind of perks or rewards. Can I just set up a campaign and raise money this way. And to that person, usually what I say is, well, first of all, I think it's honestly selfish. I think you should involve your backers in the creation of your brand, in the creation of your product and your startup company, and of course, your services. So Kickstarter works great if you're willing to do what I call co-creation. Co-creation is when you're bringing your backers along for this incredible journey as you're building a new startup company. You got to be willing to involve them in that process, whether that's being a beta tester or an alpha tester, whether that's deciding even on new features and functions in the future, or helping you decide even minor things related to like colors and what do you think about this, what do you think about that. If you are willing to involve your backers in the process of launching your Kickstarter campaign and into the future as you go to market, that's really the person that Kickstarter is going to be a good fit for. If you're like, I want this to be just a transaction and I just want to raise as much as I can and give away very little, it's probably not going to be the best platform for you. The next is if you are not willing to be public. This is one major thing that you should be aware of going into a project, is that when you're doing a Kickstarter campaign, there is nothing more public than doing a campaign, right? Because you're going to be sharing this on social media. People are going to be watching your pitch video. They're going to be going through your campaign page and checking it out. This is an extremely public exercise. And I've worked with established brands, people that are doing a new division or a new product line, or they've started a new company and they have an existing company, and sometimes that creates anxiety, right, around what it is they're doing. But what I'm telling you is that you gotta be willing to be public with this and lean into that, because the flip side is that you're gonna get a heck of a lot of media attention. You're gonna get tons of people singing your praises and sharing your campaign on social media, as long as you're willing to be transparent, to answer questions, and to really show up with positivity and the reasons why you're bringing this product to the world. You have nothing to fear. And in many cases, it's almost like you have the wind at your back, because now all of a sudden you have a crowd going into any launch. So more specifically, I would say that, Kickstarter is good for a startup company if you want to get validation. And also if you want to have a tribe of people that can give you feedback on your product. Because like we talked about, it's more of a pre-order, right? And those people can continue to give you feedback as you go through this process. In addition, the validation you're going to see, where you have thousands of people taking action and grabbing a copy of whatever it is that you've created, shows that there is demand for your product, your business, your startup, or your grand vision. So this is a good fit for you if you're looking to, really get that validation, looking to build a tribe. If you're past that phase, I do think there's a case for using crowdfunding as a marketing mechanism, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but you have a different strategy going into the campaign. So I first want to cover some advice and tips going into your actual crowdfunding campaign. But before I do, go and check out the video I have down below that goes into some of the major mistakes that are common to beginning Kickstarter and Indiegogo creators. In addition, I do and offer individual one-on-one coaching calls specifically for creators that are serious about this process. And maybe you've been thinking about this for a long time and you really want to do this right. You want to build a strong foundation beneath your campaign. It could be a huge win for you if this goes the way that you've liked to. And if you really think in the future, you want to make sure you've dotted your I's and cross your T's, that you've done the right things going into this campaign launch process. It's very similar to, if you're going out there trying to learn a new skill, like how to play tennis or how to play golf, one major adjustment in your golf swing is going to have a huge impact on where the ball ends up. And the same thing is true of crowdfunding. So first of all, go down below and check out my individual one-on-one coaching call options. Not only can we go through your entire launch, give you feedback every step of the way on the different elements going into that launch, even if you're wondering whether or not crowdfunding is right for you, if you're in the early stages in that way, or you're more mature and you're like, okay, I want to make sure I really get this right from a step-by-step perspective and really have an expert hold your hand through that process, go down below and book an individual coaching call with me at the link down below, and we can talk about the entire campaign and what you should know going forward, as well some of the secrets, the tricks, and the techniques that are not talked about publicly that I can share with you behind the scenes. So go down below and book your individual one-on-one coaching call now. It's going to be one of the best investments that you make going into this experience. So let's finish this video off here when it comes to some of the advice and tips. So the first big one is one of the ones that when I first learned about this, almost kind of made me angry. Like it almost made me feel frustrated. And that's the fact that not every great product wins in the marketplace. Whether it's an app, it could be a software app or tool, or it could be something physical related. Not every great product wins. And that's so incredibly unfortunate, but really what ends up happening is that the best marketed product wins. Now, that can be disheartening, or you could use that as an opportunity to get your marketing game right. So by marketing, I'm not just talking about the creative, which is like your video, your campaign page, having interesting, unique looking rewards, etc. I'm also talking about the launch process, gearing up to going live while you are live, how to market, promote it, get attention for the project, get people taking action and backing it so you can rank in the charts, right? You gotta have your marketing game on point, specifically if you want to get into the bigger numbers. Number two, you got to know how to maintain and grow momentum. Now, momentum is one of those topics that's not really talked about very much, honestly, but momentum is what's responsible for those really big raises where someone gets overfunded with their crowdfunding campaign. Maybe you've seen that, you're like scratching your head, like, how actually does that happen? Well, they built up a tremendous amount of momentum. And momentum is so pivotal when it comes to running a crowdfunding campaign. So you have to understand the psychology that goes into building momentum and also growing it. So I'll throw out one simple term, that would be stretch goals, for example. You have to know how these work, how to structure it, who it's good for, who it's not. You really got to understand the concept of momentum. And the third tip that I want to include on this video would be the fact that if you're going through this process and you listen to any single podcast guest that I've had on my show, they've all said, whether they've raised 6 figures or 7 figures, whether it was their first campaign or their 10th campaign, that this is a process where you need to become a sponge and absorb as much information as possible. You gotta really become a student of crowdfunding, or you need someone on your team who really knows their stuff in this area, because it is a drastically different type of product launch process than anything else out there. So make sure you know your stuff. Take a second to subscribe to this YouTube channel to be able to get information every single week leading up to your launch. If you're interested, I also have a book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which I will link up down below. You can click that button and you can grab a copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. And I also have a free course as well for those of you who really want to understand the tricks, right, that go into launching one of these campaigns, what you got to do behind the scenes to get people to show up, and more importantly, how do you attract super backers and rank in the Kickstarter algorithm. You can go and check out my free course at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter, and you can learn more about that and enter your name and email, and you'll start getting some lessons from me then and there. But my name is Salvador Briggman. I hope that this video has been useful and helpful for you. And if you feel like it has, give me a thumbs up so other people know. Go check out those links and resources I mentioned down below, and come subscribe and join this community of action takers, of people who turn their dreams into reality and turn our passion into profit. Thank you so much. My name is Sal, and I'll see you next time.